Questions, doubts, fears, concerns, points of contention. Yes?
Who names someone a father of the church? How do they get decided?
It's not an official list. The East never really had a final authority, and so it was almost by popular acclaim, and that's also the way. I mean, even now in the Orthodox East, that's also the way saints happen too. It's very different. It's very different than the very organized process we're used to, where, okay, there's a committee and they look for 2 miracles and this, that, and the other thing, and at the end, if all the boxes are checked off, someone is named a saint. It's far less organized, as one of our priests like to say, I don't belong to an organized religion, I'm Byzantine. It's, again, those 4 criteria we looked at earlier, and this is going to lead to some doubts. We're not there yet, but eventually we're going to talk, I believe next week, we're going to mention just a little bit about Augustine. And as far as the eastern half of the church is concerned, the opinions of Augustine are all over the map. If you belong to the Western Church, Augustine is a saint, and he is a theologian par excellence, and, the West relies on him for a lot of things. Depending on where you come from in the Byzantine East, well, maybe he's a saint, maybe he's not. Maybe he's a heretic, maybe he's not. So it's going to vary a lot. There's no final word on, he is a saint on our calendar, but some of the churches celebrate him, some of them don't. So again, there's no easy answer. Augie.
At that time, was there a pope in Rome, or was he considered, you said the Bishop of Rome?
I did. The title Pope comes about a little bit later on. Nowadays we tend to reflect it back, and so we'll say Peter was the first Pope. Well, Peter was the first bishop. Nobody was calling him Pope then. We would call him Pope now, yes.
Is there any relationship between the fathers of the church and the authors of the scriptures?
Well, only in that, the age of the fathers begins after the apostles. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we would not consider them quote-unquote fathers, because they're part of the 12. They're a completely separate group. So, as I mentioned, we have folks here who are students of John. The Didache might have been written by Matthew, or someone Matthew taught. So there's a connection, yes. The faith is being the faith is being directly passed on from one generation to the next. Remember, John the Apostle, tradition tells us, would have been alive through most of this period. John lives a very long life. So John is still alive during much of this. Paul is killed in about 65. Peter is killed approximately the same time. John is going to last a good while more. Louise.
He was Ignatius of Antioch.
Yes.
And he was Bishop of Antioch.
Yes.
And Antioch is the first place where they call them Christians.
Exactly, as
So-
the Acts of the Apostles.
So was he there when they first
tells
called
us.
them Christians, or was that
Probably, well, if he was, he would have been extremely young. Because again, That's recorded in Acts around the time of St. Paul and Ignatius. Well, Ignatius is born in about 35. He would have been a little boy. He would have been a little boy. Remember, he's born roughly 2, 3, 5 years after Christ dies.
So they were called Christians after, when he got older.
Before that,
Before that.
yes,
Oh.
yes.
No, Peter, Saul. He was born in Tarsus, right?
Paul,
Paul was
Yes.
born in Tarsus.
yes.
Where was Peter born? Was he born, he wasn't born in Rome, was he?
No, I don't think we have a birthplace for him, but Peter is one of the fishermen at the Sea of Galilee. So in all likelihood, he is a Galilean Jew.
So
Michael,
actually, he's the first bishop of Rome, but he's really from the east,
Absolutely.
because, you know, what was it?
And, well, remember,
Constantinople?
Peter first goes to Antioch.
Right.
Peter's the founding bishop there. Then he decides to leave and go to Rome. So again, we often like to say that we lent Rome our bishop.
Well, because like the church was really in Constantinople before it went to Rome.
No,
No?
Constantinople doesn't even exist yet.
Oh,
It's not even a city yet. Constantinople won't be built for another 200 or 300
But it
years.
was the seat of the Byzantine Empire.
Yes, eventually. Remember, I mean, now we're getting into just basic history. It's Constantine who has Constantinople built, and Constantine doesn't become emperor until 310. And so he becomes the Roman Empire. The empire isn't split yet, but he decides, you know, there's more going on east, so I need to move east. Michael.
Are all the fathers of the church bishops?
Are all, no. They are bishops, they are monks, they are nuns. Some of them, most of them are saints, but not all. And just for fun, I brought a few things to show you as well. As I said, we're going to, hopefully over the course of the next 5 weeks, we're going to hit a total of about 18 or 19 fathers. One of the first things you have to keep in mind that even unto this very day, not all of their works are translated into English. So if you really want to read absolutely everything John Chrysostom ever wrote, you have to read Greek. So just to show you, this is from a set of books. There are 3 series in this set. There's a total of about 30 or 40 volumes just on the fathers. The bad thing about this set is it's a reprint from 1885, and they didn't change a thing. And so the language sometimes is a little bit tough. You know, because in 1885, in Victorian times, they spoke just a little bit more formally than we tend to speak now. One of the classic texts, and this is the text I used in school. This is part of a 4-volume set by a fellow by the name of John Quaston. And to give you some hint of what we have to do, we're skipping all of book 2 and we're going from book 1 right to book 3 because again we just don't have time. We could spend a whole year or more talking about any one of these folks and really going in depth if we chose to. Paulist Press has put out a rather interesting series of books. The series is called Classics of Western Spirituality. And it's a rather, they've decided to take that term and very broadly And so you'll find fathers of the West, fathers of the East, but then you'll also find American Indian stuff, Jewish stuff, Amish stuff, Muslim stuff. So their definition of West, I'm not quite sure what their definition of West is, but it's very broad. They'll give you a very nice introduction to the person, and then usually either one of their works or at least part of one of their works. These are very easily accessible on Amazon. And then a couple of things I picked up just in my prep for these talks. Again, a very nice one volume, The Fathers of the Church by a fellow it's put out by Our Sunday Visitor, a fellow by the name of Michael Aquilin. Very nice, again, maybe a 1 or 2 page bio, and then maybe a 5 pages of quotes. And then there's also a 2-volume set out by Benedict XVI, who you may or may not know, every Wednesday he gives public talks. And for a couple, 2, 3, 4 years, his theme was the Fathers. And so he went every week, he would talk about one of them. They're fairly brief. Having gone to one of these talks myself, he does the talk in either Italian or Latin first, and then he does it in German, and then he does it in French, and then he does it in English. And so if he's going to give the same talk 4 or 5 times, it's going to have to be fairly brief to keep everyone going. These are some very good, these are some very good resource material. Oh, I know there's another set I wanted to bring to St. Vladimir's Press out of Crestwood. Has been publishing for the last several years a lovely set of small books called the Popular Patristics series. And again, it's usually one father on one topic in one nice little slim book that you could keep in your purse or in your coat pocket. They're very nice. And those are some of the available very, very good resources. The Didache, this translation I gave you, came out of a book by Penguin Press. I believe it's called Early Christian Writings, and in there is not only this, but all of the things we've been talking about tonight. Clement's letters there. All 6 or 7 of Ignatius's are there, and none of these are terribly long. This is probably about 10 pages here, if you count both sides. So a pretty easy reading text. If you wanted to sit down for about 1 hour or so and just read it. Okay, I made it to 8:15. I feel better. Unless anybody has anything else for me, there's coffee, there's cake. Please have some before you have to go back out into that cold night. And hopefully I'll see you all next week. Thank you.